Hi, my name is Bryce Newberger. Thank you so much for signing up to train in how to be a friend with the Soul Ward. Hopefully at this point you've already gotten your certificate in suicide prevention training. And if you haven't, you can do this out of order if you want, but if you want to click up above, it's a quick less than 2 hour training, maybe 2-3 hours tops training, and has some great ways that you can be more effective as a friend. Hopefully you've also checked out the mandatory reporting link. That's just giving you information on what a mandatory reporter is. It is only actually legally in response or in relation to children and teenagers. So when you're dealing with an adult or a young adult, it's actually not mandatory reporting. But it's still good to be aware of what a mandatory reporter is. As a volunteer for the Soul Ward, you wouldn't actually be a mandatory reporter, but we'd still like to fall within the guidelines of that. So if you see a child in crisis, you can report to CPS or whatever and make sure that you're effective in getting them help and getting them out of a dangerous environment. That being said, this training is going to focus on how to help without hurting. This is basically training on how to be a friend. Thank you so much for volunteering to be a friend with the Soul Ward. And that's exactly what you're training to be, a good friend. You're not being asked to be a medical professional, a counselor, or a therapist, just a friend. There's a story in the Bible about a man named Job. He was going through a lot and he just needed some friends to sit with him. It is said that his friends sat with Job in silence for 7 days. Wow. Those must have been the best friends ever. Have you ever had anyone just sit with you in silence as you mourned for 7 days straight? Unfortunately, Job's friends are recorded as some of the worst friends in history because they eventually opened their mouths, and all that came out was a stream of unhelpful comments. They implied he deserved his pain. They implored a just man to repent. They rebuked him for lashing out in anguish. They tried to help, but all they did was hurt. At the end of the story, they not only required Job's forgiveness, but Job had asked God to forgive them. The problem with Job's friends wasn't that they spoke. It was what they said. When you are being a friend to a ward of the Soul Ward, here's a few things to avoid. 1, don't say it could be worse. 2, don't ask what God is teaching them through this. 3, do not say God will work all things together for the good. And 4, do not continue to ask what they need. Let me explain some of these a little bit more in depth because those might be confusing to you and you might have said many of these things to people who are hurting. Let me clarify. Do not say it could be worse. Sometimes we can get into comparison game with others and try to contextualize their pain. The reality of their pain is unique and real to them. The worst thing they have ever gone through might not be the worst thing you have ever gone through, but it is the worst thing they have ever gone through. It takes courage to seek help, and reaching out to the Soul Ward took courage and guts from them. They may be thinking that they're being silly or minimizing their trauma. It's important that they feel validated for taking this big step and that they feel it was necessary and important. We want them to feel comfortable coming back in the future if needed. Do not ask what God is teaching them through this. Pain is not a time for reflection. That comes after. That's why it's called reflection. What's important right now is to calm them down and ground them to the moment, not have their mind thinking about the future. Anxiety and depression make the future and the past louder than the present. It's important that they focus on the here and now and find peace in the moment. We also do not want them to think God is punishing them and tie religion to their trauma. Do not say God is working all things together for the good. Trust me, that is not helpful. It also, once again, places God and religion at the center of their trauma. It suggests their trauma is some sort of puzzle they can solve. God has a plan. If only they could find it, they could be healed or saved. Such comments are scriptural, but it's not speaking the truth in love, and it's not helpful in the moment. Do not continue to ask what they need. Let me clarify. When they're settling into the space, it's one thing to offer a preliminary, is there anything I can get you? But beyond that, they don't know what they need. Be attentive. Get them water. If they drink it, get them more water. Part of being a friend and caretaker is taking notice of the ward, the person who is the ward of the Soul Ward, and anticipating their needs. Food, drink, distraction, conversation, space. We'll talk more about these things in the session to come, but suffice to say right now, instead of putting the burden on them to continually have them tell you what they need, they're in a moment of crisis. They're not thinking clearly. Anticipate their need. Be mindful of them. Watch over them. I hope you've enjoyed this short little training video. We're going to get into more of this in the videos to come. Thank you so much for watching.